Good evening, everybody, and those in the audience and those watching at home, and welcome to the February Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors monthly meeting. Sorry it was postponed from last week due to the stormy, snowy weather as we've been encountering all more frequently this winter season, but we will move forward. First up, I will give invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If everybody could please rise. Heavenly Father, as the winter season slowly starts to fade and we welcome the warmth of spring, we thank you for bringing us together here one more time in the performance of our service to this community. Grant us health to perform our duties, insight to enable us to work diligently together, and a measure of creativity so that we may look from all angles and produce innovations that will forward our great county. As always, Lord, thank you for your gifts to us, for your presence and your peace. May we use those gifts to the best of our ability in the service of our community. In Christ's name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call is going around. 22 members are present this evening. Supervisors Nichols, Vogel, and Giroux are excused for this evening. And I want to thank you all for rearranging your schedules for the postponement for this 1 week. So thank you once again. Before we get further, I just want to congratulate Jessica one more time, as now she's officially the county clerk in her first county board meeting. Thank you very much. So with that, I will go on, move forward. Consideration and correction of our minutes from our January 15th, 2019 meeting. Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Hoffman to approve those minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and the minutes are approved. No additions or deletions to the agenda. Here we have your first chance to speak, I guess, as clerk. Well, it's coming. It'll be coming. All right. We're pretty light, I guess, in regard to the reports of supervisors, so we'll move right on to public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to county government, please raise your hand, give your name and address, and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to speak. Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening? Is there anybody wishing to speak? Yes, Maura.
Good evening. I apologize for the delay. I thought there was a little more in the agenda, so I thought I had a little more time. Anyway, good evening. Our county is at a financial tipping point. That's, quote, the critical point in a situation beyond which a significant and often unstoppable effect or change takes place. One of your legislative duties is to appropriate funds, and in this case, it means voting whether to borrow money. Tonight, it means 3/4 of you must vote to borrow another $6,505,000 for road work and recycling equipment. I said our county is at a financial tipping point because with this borrowing, in just 1 year, our existing debt service will have increased almost 32% from $30.5 million to $40 million. That rate of growth in our debt is not sustainable, and so we are at a financial tipping point. We've seen cautionary indicators along the way. Since 2006, when County Executive Ziegelbauer took office, our county's debt with this proposed borrowing has soared 43% from $28 million to $40 million. We've watched as debt has been refinanced continuing the cycle of indebtedness. We've watched as Moody's downgraded our county board's rating, describing the outlook as, quote, negative, reflecting the county's historical narrow financial position, which is expected to further contract during 2018. The negative outlook reflects the county's narrow financial reserves. Notably, Moody's cites two reasons for another downgrade: further narrowing of reserves, meaning less cash on hand, and increased leverage, meaning more borrowing. We've watched as the rate of inflation since 2006 increased by 25%, and we've watched the attempted hasty liquidation of publicly held land access without market appraisals. A recent Cato article described the dangers of general obligation debt as, quote, expensive and imprudent. It cited interest payments, fees to the municipal bond industry, and corruption as, quote, finance firms provide campaign contributions and other benefits to government officials to win bond business. That allows politicians to evade the responsibility for future higher taxes. We know that the state debt is close to $1.6 billion and that our federal debt recently topped $22 trillion. These debts will impact us, but we can increase our county's financial security by limiting our county debt and increasing our reserves. In the long run, the more fiscally conservative option is to pay a half penny more in sales tax, so we reduce the uncertainty of current and future rising interest rates. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Maura. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, Supervisor Zimmer. So noted.
Chip yells Centerville to comply with Supervisor Zimmer's correction.
Please. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will declare public comment closed at this time. We'll move along with the agenda. There's no unfinished business from last meeting, so we'll move right on to appointments by the county executive. First up will be a local emergency planning committee to appoint one member to succeed Gary Shablik and alternate Lee Sadler for a 2-year term expiring March of 2021. And the recommendation is for Gary Shablik with the alternate as Tim Herzog. Motion by Supervisor Swade, second by Supervisor Henriksen to approve those appointments. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next up is the Traffic Safety Commission to appoint 2 members to succeed Robert Herman and alternate Greg Shetter. And the recommendation is for Dan Hartwig and the alternate is Brian Knack. So motion by Supervisor Falkowski, second by Supervisor Niles. Discussion on the motion. See none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion carried as well as appointments. Thank you very much on those appointments. We'll move right to committee reports. First up will be Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. The next meeting of the March 26th in Kewaunee County, starting at 10 a.m. for the Commission on Aging, followed by the ADRC of the Lakeshore at 10:45. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
We will not be meeting in February, and our next meeting is March 14th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative there.
Thank you. Thank you. There was no report for this month. Our next meeting is March 6th. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Executive Committee, I have nothing as well. Expo Center Board, Supervisor Supervisor Gauger. I was going back to a year and a half. I apologize. Supervisor Gauger is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Ice Center Board met February 6th at the Expo office. Finance, Operations, Entertainment, and Parking Committees, elected officers for this year. We looked at indoor and outdoor vendor fees as well as our advertising budget. We finished contracts for our tents and our NEW Motorsports contract, as well as Nick D Entertainment. He's our new kids entertainment act. We approved our radio contracts and looked at our building hours and release times and load and unload locations, as well as main gate and parking layout and office complex parking, shuttle bus and trailer parking. With the Meyer project beginning this year. Our next meeting will be March 6th at 7 p.m. at the office complex. And that'll conclude my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Gallagher? Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Mr. Chair, a couple things before we get into the resolutions for tonight. We had a piece of property that we got back on the tax rolls. We sold that, got our asking price for it. Also discussed the idea of, do we need to change where property is sold? Should we give that to Public Works, or should Finance do the selling of all property? After a discussion, we're just going to let everything the way it is. So there won't be any changes at this time with that. We also talked about something, and I asked permission of the committee to do this after last county board meeting. There was a study that came out that had Sheboygan County as the second fastest growing county in the state of Wisconsin. And some of us were talking after that meeting, boy, should we be going down and picking the brains of the people down south of us that are growing? So working with Peter and listening to his advice, that would have to be a county committee if we had members of finance on that group that would go down and pick brains in Sheboygan. Even if it's only one other person, that would cause some issues with committee meetings. So with that, originally it was Manitowoc, Two Rivers, and members of the county board going down to speak with them, and Supervisor Bauman, as he always does, represented his district well and said, hey, get Keel in there too. So I'm going to reach out to Keel, and City of Manitowoc and Two Rivers already like the idea. I will look for somebody from this county board to come with me if you are interested, if you are not on the finance committee. Okay, that does some kind of, it's not a majority, but it would be a group, two people on one committee may cause some concern down the line. But we have a situation where they are growing. They're second fastest in Wisconsin behind Dane County. If that helps us get into the top half of the 72 counties in Wisconsin, and we can go down and get some information and maybe help a little growth in this county, I don't see a problem with that. And I'll be happy to report back to you after we get together. But it is not an official county committee. We're just going to try to work with the cities and of the county and see if we can maybe come up with some ideas to help development around here. So if you have interest in joining that, send me an email, and I'll be happy to let you know who I guess I pick. Questions on that before we get into the resolutions?
I guess you missed.
Yes.
Supervisor Hanson,
Yes.
when I was at the Legislative Exchange for the Counties Association, I did talk with County Minister Adam Payne and County Board Chair Tom Wagner, who spoke here, about a group coming from Manitowoc County composed of the cities and some county board supervisors, and they would welcome the chance to do that. So they would, it's just a matter of setting it all up. So
appreciate that.
Move forward.
And I think we all realize there's some differences in what that county offers compared to Manitowoc, but there are a lot of similarities. We're both on a lake. We both do certain things the same way. So let's just find out. Let's just talk. and work together.
All right.
Okay, with that, resolution number 1, county has to put together a land information plan, has to put that together so we can tap some resources from the state and other funding sources. We have that plan together. We approved it as the Finance Committee, and I move that we adopt that resolution approving our land information plan.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson. Is there a second? By voice. Seconded by Supervisor Holzbach. Discussion on the motion. Before we go any further, we're gonna try a little something different here tonight. Jessica's gonna recite, because she's essentially by herself, as you can tell. She's gonna recite the passage, and then she will press the button to vote. So you have to wait for that yellow light to come on to vote. So just a heads up, I guess, once again. All right. Seeing no discussion, the clerk will now conduct the vote. Oh, Supervisor Hanson, you didn't have anything else right now?
I have
Okay.
nothing else
Okay.
unless there's questions on it.
I'm not, okay. All right, please.
Supervisors will now vote on resolution approving land information plan.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Resolution number 2 is the initial resolution for the authorization not to exceed $6.5 million general obligation promissory notes for the capital projects. I understand the concern of borrowing money. I look at this project as the vast majority of that money, I think it's about 5 some million going to the road and the bridge and that project. Though I don't like borrowing money, that road, that bridge will be in service for many years. And to say the people right now should pay the full tab or we should not be borrowing long-term to do a project like this, I don't think would be fair to us right now. It spreads out the cost of that project over 20 years, I believe, is in the bond. I understand the concerns we have with borrowing money, but this project needs to get done now. And if we have those borrowing concerns, then we need to look at that at another meeting to start raising funds to get more tax revenue to do projects without having to borrow. So I am bringing this forward and I move that we adopt this resolution.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Ballman to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $6,505,000 general obligation promissory notes for capital projects.
Resolution passes 22-0.
We thank you for your support to get this project done. Second resolution is for the actual sale of those notes, the 6.5 million in notes to start moving forward on that process. So I move that we adopt resolution number 3, providing for the sale.
Motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Hoffman to approve this resolution. Any discussion? I guess quickly, Todd, by the week delay of the Baldwin County Board meeting, this didn't affect nothing like that because we haven't gone out for the actual sale, correct? I guess I wanted that point made to not just the board, but the entire public as well. So, all right. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on a resolution providing for the sale of 6,505,000 note anticipation notes.
Resolution passes 22-0. Thank you very much on those.
Again, I appreciate the support on the pass of those resolutions, and that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Thank you very much. Highway Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Chair, I have a short report. We met tonight prior to this meeting. We went over a lot of just general housekeeping information about the end of 2018 year. Still pretty much in the ballpark year to year. Looked at the 2019 proposed equipment purchases. Generally, that's somewhere in the 500,000 to 530. I think it was 529-ish for this year per year. Again, that enterprise fund funds that enterprise fund funds the purchase of that equipment, and we're staying in that range on a year-to-year basis. So as long as we keep our wheels turning, we keep that enterprise fund funded. And we went through the construction schedule for this coming year. We are very busy. We have a lot of state work going back out on I-43 to finish the crack filling project that we had last year, getting a number of other municipalities. Some towns are calling already for culvert replacement and some of other things. So our schedule is getting busy for this coming year, which is good news for our staff and for our budget. And we talked about overtime, snow plowing. We're probably about $70,000 ahead of last year at this time in snow plowing budget, but that I think has to do with the fact that we had a very good end of 2018. We will see where these little bitty snowstorms are coming in. Once those start piling up, that could put a little strain on our snow plowing budget, but we'll see. Hopefully we don't have another April snowstorm like we had last year. That I think was somewhere in the $600,000 range just for that one in April. So those big ones are very, very expensive. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Benke? I already talked to Mark Olson tonight, the Highway Commissioner. Excellent job by his staff and all the employees of the Highway Department plowing. I mean, it's got to be, it sounds simple just to plow a road, but as you know, as you drive it for 10, 15 hours at a crack, it gets to be a little bit monotonous and very tiring, but excellent job. I think they've done a super job. And Supervisor Hendrickson.
Yes, Supervisor Benke. Also, I want to say, pass on to the highway crew, good job. Having to go to several doctors out of the area. Some of our counties don't even compare with Manitowoc. The other thing was, how are we doing on salt? I know we had an abundance and we were selling to other areas. Are we still within good shape?
Yeah, we have enough. We were, based on the fact that we were paying $51 a ton compared to what some of the other counties were paying, we ended up having to haul some up to Vilas County, and we're still fine with salt. The state contract allows us to purchase enough, and we purchased enough at that low price, but we didn't have to get rid of that much. So,
Okay.
But so far, yes, we're in good shape.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Hendrickson. And I've heard that as well. I guess I don't really travel a lot when it's really snowing and out of the county, and I guess it's not really a slam on other counties, but I heard the saying, I think it says it best, that you can tell where the county line of Manitowoc ends with snowfall. That's interesting. So there must be a lot of truth to that. Thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments for Supervisor Benke? Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Human Services Board. Supervisor Hendrickson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not really a report tonight, but I have a resolution amending Department 2019 budget. Basically, Whereas the state of Wisconsin Department of Justice awarded Human Services Department a grant in the amount of $41,630 for programs or projects pursuant to the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act of 1974 after the 2019 budget was passed. And whereas after careful review of the matter, Human Services Board recommends the Manitowoc County accept the grant from the Wisconsin Department of Justice and amend the 2019 budget to reflect changes in revenues and expenses. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
So motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, seconded by Supervisor Williams. Discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on a resolution amending Human Services Department 2019 budget.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Our next meeting will be on the 28th of February at the Human Services Department at 4:45. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Hendrickson? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee and Natural Resource and Education Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. Our Land Conservation Committee meeting will be March 21st, 2019 at the County Office Complex at 4:45. And the next meeting of the Natural Resource and Education Committee will be this week, Thursday, February 21st at the Office Complex, also at 4:45. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Marsh is the chair.
Thank you. I have a resolution amending Employee Policy Manual 18.03 and 18.04. This change is required because the Wisconsin retirement system requires that accrued time paid out must be reported in the year that that it was earned. So in other words, what is earned in 2018 has to be reported in 2018. In order to comply with this, a modification to our policy had to be made. So I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Marsh, second by Supervisor Banky to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on resolution amending Employee Policy Manual State Statute 18.03 compensatory time off and State Statute 18.04 adjustment time off.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Okay, also, we discussed county board compensation. If you remember, we had passed for this county board that members who do not attend the county board meeting would lose their per diem, even if the absence was due to representing Manitowoc County at other forums. It was an unintended consequence that people who are doing county business and do miss the county board meeting lose their per diem. So we're starting out early. We're trying to seek input from other supervisors how we should be handling this. We will be addressing this in fall, so please contact us or contact me with some ideas to how we're going to work this out. So that would be it, and our next meeting is March 5th. Any questions?
Any questions for Supervisor Marish? When I proposed the pay increase, I guess, in the salary per diem and changes, I guess, to this county board salary, I guess I never took that into account that sometimes you would be missing. So I would definitely be in favor of something like that. I find it interesting that some of the events that are held on the night of a county board meeting across the state of Wisconsin, almost 90% of the county boards meet on a Tuesday. That's the third Tuesday. So I always find it interesting that you would think that the county association and the highway people and stuff would try to schedule around it. And I know that can't be possible too, but certainly we'll work with that. And it's certainly was an error, and wholeheartedly will support that later on when it comes up. Anything else? Thank you very much, Supervisor Marish. Planning and Park Commission, Supervisor Dizak is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no report. We also got snowed out. Our next meeting will be February 25th at the county offices, advisory meeting at 3:30 with the regular meeting at 4.
Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Vice Chair Supervisor Hendrickson will be, I'm sorry? Public Safety, I'm sorry, I jumped. Public Safety, yes.
you.
Vice Chair Supervisor Hendrickson will be giving a report tonight.
Yes. Basically, Jackie LeBray submitted her staffing request. At this point, the state budget in flux. Too early to know what to expect. A comprehensive crime package was assembled to try to address the assistant district attorney shortage. Filings from 2018, 859 felonies continuing to increase. 714 misdemeanors, also an increase. 542 traffic cases, which is steady. 2 retirements of note. Ann Biden, the victim witness coordinator, retired, but fortunate to hire Mary Ann Groth, an experienced victim support specialist from Milwaukee. Assistant Mike Griesbach retired, replaced by Tony Lambrick, previously the public defender's office. During 2018, we've been seeing a positive result from drug court. The drug courts are doing the best they can in keeping up with hearing requirements, given both they are significantly understaffed for the caseload. A report by the sheriff. Addressing the final questions first, closed out 5% over the 2018 budget. This is primarily overtime due to the departures. 21 individuals left, 16 were hired. Overtime is needed to fill the shifts. So far, it appears there will be a similar pattern for this year. 5 retirements already. This results in personal movement. Amy Mathias to Mary R.'s position, 2 patrol deputies promoted to lieutenant. Another issue with not having part-time officers available is that patrol officers need to do transport. I started a new recruitment list. Only 3 applied, reopened, and have 12 total. Given the percentage of any list that's ultimately eligible, there is a concern. Sheriff Harway had a busy first month. He implemented some changes. Found that there is an insurance program for sheriff's offices that automates the coverage required to comply with federal and state requirements. They will also notify the agency of changing requirements. Implemented position title changes away from what was commonly used in a municipal police agency setting to chief deputy, etc., which is more traditional military system for the sheriff offices. And basically, that concludes my report. Our next meeting will be what is it, March 13th? No. I believe it's going to be March 13th, if needed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Supervisor Hendrickson? And I apologize once again. I guess I was thinking because Supervisor Dizak is Vice Chair of Public Works, I was going to segue right into him. So with that, I will call Public Works since Vice Chair of the Public Works Committee, Supervisor Dizak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met last Wednesday, the 13th. Started Mr. Noiser reported on the following for the Solid Waste and Recycling Division. 2018 recycling and solid waste programs included the savings to all the municipalities that participate as a result of the master agreement with waste disposal of $739,000 through 2018. The Two Rivers compost site lease, which ends in April of this year, and he's also working with the city of Two Rivers on continuing that partnership. He then updated the 2019 capital equipment purchase for the recycle center, including the main incline conveyor, which is already includes increase safety and productivity. And looking at getting the new skid steer to be delivered soon. And finalizing the purchase of new forklift, all of which are approved in the 2019 budget. Negotiations also continue with Waste Management for a new master solid waste agreement. When that's complete, the solid waste and recycling agreements with the local municipalities will follow. Discussion was then held on the future of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. That committee was formed in 1983 via a county board resolution and was made to advise Public Works and the county board on the anticipated construction of a county landfill. Since this has not happened and most likely will never happen, after discussion and with input from members of the committee, it was passed unanimously to move forward with dissolving the committee. Mr. Neuser was directed to work with corporate counsel on proper procedure to accomplish the dissolution. Discussion was also then held about the property that's controlled by finance, and since finance committee had decided to keep it there, we agree, and this item is now considered closed. Mr. Bright then reported on the completion of the law enforcement closed circuit TV upgrade, and the committee approved for the final pay request for $23,487. Mr. Neuser then reported on a request to buy the county's obsolete time clocks for $800, if you can believe that. Must be making a movie about people punching clocks, I think. We unanimously approved that and also discussed some of the de minimis items that can be dissolved by the Public Works Director at his discretion. Discussion then moved to the Heckler and V-Baum property. Everyone should have received a copy of the new assessment of the property. The new assessed value is $859,000. After discussion, a motion was passed unanimously to counter offer to the original prospective buyer at the assessed value with the stipulation that it will still be contingent on county board approval. After that, a short update was given on the communications division, the IS department, and expo activities, including the ongoing planning for the 2019 county fair. Our next meeting is March 13th, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? Could you reemphasize what the committee's action again was on the Hecker Road property?
For the in-ram property?
No, for the Hecker Road property that we own.
Basically, we decided to, with the assessed value, we said we're going to make the counter offer back to the original offer.
Correct.
At the assessed value, the new assessed value, with the contingent they have to have county board approval for.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Supervisor Dizak? Supervisor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is kind of a broad-based question beyond just public works, certainly public safety. Are you finding that you're getting the quality of workers that we need? I know the rest of the community everybody's got, workers wanted, and they're having a hard time finding people that show up on a regular basis with the skills that are required. And
to my knowledge, all positions are filled, Jerry. We have no openings, and we've been real pleased with the performance of the Public Works Department. We have some really good people running it and working in that department.
Well, that's great to hear.
Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Any other questions for Supervisor Dizak? Thank you once again. Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Ballman is the chair.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Miscellaneous, we have a resolution authorizing the town of Newton zoning ordinance text amendment, and I will refer to Supervisor Banky.
Resolution number 6, I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Gauger to approve. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
County Board Supervisors will now vote on the resolution approving Town of Newton zoning ordinance text and map amendments.
Resolution passed 22-0. Thank you very much, everybody. Supervisor Ballman, do you have any announcements? We're going to announcements. Do you have an announcement you would like to make, or should I make it? Okay, I guess I'll make it. Supervisor Ballman, as you remember, we created the ad hoc sales tax commission committee. Supervisor Ballman, I appointed chair. We'll be having the first meeting next week, 4:15 p.m. in the IT building in the conference room on the first floor. I think it'll begin at 4:15. So you're certainly welcome. The public is welcome to attend. There should be enough room as well. But this is the initial meeting to start the process, I guess. Any questions regarding that? All right, that's all I have. If there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Motion by Supervisor Mink, second by Supervisor Dizak. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.